Okay, so today we will be discussing the next part of this theory called transaction processing, right? Like in the previous study lecture, we have started this topic called transaction processing or transaction theory. Now, we have actually taken the basic definitions related to that theory, which is called transaction or processing. So we have taken the basic terms like what is transaction, how do you identify that transaction is of nature read or write. Then we have discussed the different states. So different state a transaction will be having. So like whenever we perform some transaction or whenever we perform some operation on the database, uh, for different transactions, so there will be different state, right? So all the transactions in the of a database or maybe in the transaction processing system will be going through these different or these many states, right? So you should be having this idea on whenever we are discussing transaction theory or whenever we will be discussing about the processing of a transaction. And so you should be having this idea that okay, my transaction or this transaction of users will be of any these state, right? So we have 5 possible states for the transaction. So really it start with the active state naturally. So after initiating the transaction, your transaction immediately reaches to the active state, and that in the active state, uh, as a user, you can perform any operation on a data value, right? So like in any case, like if you are using any real-time system which is supporting user operation, so you can assume that after logging into the system, after connecting into the system, after initializing the system, the very first state or very first phase of a transaction is the active state, right? So whenever you are operating something, or whenever you are performing some task on the data value in that system, your operational transaction is in the active state, right? Because either you are manipulating the values, database values, or you may be adding some values, right? Like in the study, one of the case we have taken for train ticket booking. So during the train ticket booking, maybe in the IRCTC platform itself, uh, after inquiring about the trains, after inquiring about the seats available on different trains or different category, you will be selecting some train, particular train, and after that, in the very next step within that, you simply submit the passenger details, right? So that's what I'm saying. So that's the two possible cases. So whenever we are performing transaction, either it is requesting for access of a data, certain data, or you may be applying or submitting some data values to the database, right? So this database transaction is primarily used to either access the data or it is to manipulate the data values. So manipulation involves insertion and deletion and updations. These are the something very basic notions, basic concepts related to the transaction theory. So in that, actually, we have discussed further that there are 5 possible operations within a transaction which might be happening, right? So whenever we are actually opening the transaction, so if you open the transaction, so there will be 5 different operations defined, right? So when you start your transaction, there is a term called begin transaction. So begin transaction is a timestamp value, it is a time value, it is an identifier, right? Real-time identifier. So we have taken this concept that like in the nowadays, each and every real-time system is basically supporting global operations, like suppose if you take this example of Citibank. So Citibank is one of the bank which is established in USA, but now it is operating on different countries, different regions, different time zones. So now that's why it is important to capture this geographical location also. So whenever we are capturing any timestamp value for any kind of transaction, we need to capture this geographical or geospatial location. So geospatial data, right? So whenever we say geospatial, it means geographical plus coordinate plus time value. So there are 3 coordinates probably. So there are various real world systems available which are capturing these transactional information along with these time and geographical information, right? and these information will be acting as an identifier that this particular transaction, user transaction, is basically having these steps involved at these particular time, right? So it is very important to understand that these different operations are captured along with these time values, right? So these five steps of operation we have discussed, any transaction will begin with the very first identifier, which is called begin transaction. After that, you can perform any operation which you want to perform. So these operation will be of type read and write. After that, there is a third step. So once you complete with all these user operations, all these data operations, the next step is to ensure that the transaction is completed or ended, right? So in transaction is the third entry, which will be available in the transaction logs. After that, there is a point called commit point, commit transaction point, right? So commit point transaction says after that point, each and every change which we have made as a user, as a transaction user, will be permanently reflected, permanently saved, and basically your transaction is supposed to, or it is assumed to be completed, right? After that, if in any transaction there might be some external failures, external interference, then you should be calling, or the DBM system, it will be calling a procedure called rollback, right? So so first four steps, like in begin transaction, then the operation, then in transaction, and then commit point. So these four steps are okay, and these four transactions are ideally required in a transaction, right? But so these four steps are available for any transaction which happened normally, which happened without any failures. But there are various scenarios, there are various reasons for which, or due to which, your transaction might be affected. It might be basically a failed transaction, or it will basically aborted actually. So today, in the very first part of discussion, we will be taking these various reasons of transaction failure. That is one part. So for transaction failure, there are various reasons, in and outs, or external or internal. So we will be talking about these different reasons. That's one part. And so as a user also, we have some kind of idea on these parameters, right? So because we are doing different transactions on different systems, like we used to go to the ATM and we used to perform some transaction, we used to go to the rail ticket booking system, and we used to face these kind of situations, and because of these kind of reasons. So these are the listed, some of the listed, or some of the the frequently occurring scenario or situations due to which a transaction may lead to the failure, right? So these are the primary, or you can say the potent or potential reasons for transaction to be a failed transaction, right? So let's go by one, and let's have a brief idea that how a particular transaction is failing, right? So the very first reason for transaction failure is it is the failure of the local machine or computer failure. So any system, like if you go to the ATM, sometimes we face that ATM is not working properly. So it is a system crash. It is a crash of whole system, which is conducting this whole transaction scenario. So this the very first reason is basically is related to the failure of this environment on which this transaction processing is executing or implemented, right? So it may be the failure of ATM machine, it may be the failure of server, something like that, right? So it is related to the failure of physical component, right? So whenever we are running a transaction processing system, there might be some hardware involved, there might be this environment, complete environment, computing environment involved. So that is the first reason of failure of this kind of transaction. So user is normally performing some operation, and just because of some hardware component failure, his transaction will be it is aborted. So it should be handled properly, right? So whenever these kind of failures are occurring, your DBMS system on its component called recovery control should be taking care of all these transactions which are occurring during that failure actually, right? So it should take care about the different state or the actual state of a transaction, and according to it should perform the recovery. Second scenario is the second reason for that, it is a transaction or system error, right? So it might be, so this second scenario is connecting to this, you can say, there is some errors which are falling into the category. So whenever you are performing some operation, like in the ATM case, whenever you're performing a transaction and you have selected a wrong choice, you have opted for wrong selection, you have selected or submitted wrong variables. So due to that also, there are some transactions which may fail, which may be aborted, right? So this is the second possible reason. Third reason says there are some local errors, there are some exception conditions within the transaction, right? So these might be like these errors are like it is equivalent to some bugs. It is equivalent to uh, some incorrect execution of the transaction, incorrect execution of the program which is handling the transaction, right? So this is that specific reason. The next reason is very important. It is called concurrency control enforcement, right? So I'm saying that whenever a transaction is failed because of some external reason, in the database system there is a component called recovery control, right? And that component is mainly there to enforce or apply some kind of restrictions, some kind of protocols to make sure that each and everything is on the place, each and every data is in the valid state. There is no loss of value, there is no loss of information, right? So sometimes it is because of concurrency control enforcement. So we are trying to we are trying to apply some force, some conditions on these transactions, so due to which also sometimes it is basically terminated, some transaction is terminated or aborted. So you might have this experience that, yeah, I'm getting Abhinay, you want to say something? Yeah, okay. So we can continue. So basically, you might have this experience of you getting your transaction in IRCTC, getting your transaction terminated at sharply 10 a.m. in the morning. So after 10 a.m., there is this window called Tatkal window. I mean, Tatkal bookings has been started. So this IRCTC system force some kind of termination program. It executes some kind of transaction termination algorithms, which ensures that now each and every transaction which has been on the live, which has been just connected, should be terminated immediately. And it is just to ensure this concurrency or valid state of the data, right? So there might be various reasons. There are various reasons actually for which your DBMS system or your concurrency control system or your recovery control system will be forcefully terminating these transactions just to ensure the proper or correct or valid state of the data. That's the only reason. It is not an exception case, right? So it is, but it is important, right? After that, we have other reasons like disk failure. So disk is something which we are assuming that a physical drive again, and this physical drive is kept in a particular separate physical drives, right? Like because any transaction processing system is having this theory that whenever they used to store data or transactional data of users, they used to keep two copies of that. So like in SBI case, they are keeping their actual daily to daily operational or transactional data in two backup drives actually, and that too in the two different geographical regions, right? And it is based on some strategy. This decision is based on some strategy. So initially they have kept this whole data in some server located at Mumbai, but after some years they have realized that in Mumbai there is a particular time, like between maybe May or June or July, there is a reasons of flood. There are scenarios of flood. So they have kept that drive. They have moved that drive to the Pune, and then after that they have moved it to their sites to the Bangalore. So nowadays SBI organization is having their database server into 3 different locations of the countries, right? And on daily basis, not hourly basis, on daily basis, they are keeping these backups of transaction into these 3 different replica sites. So on daily basis, they are creating replica. They are simply creating kind of backup on daily basis of for transactional data, right? So it might be a point of failure also. Sometimes it happens exceptionally, not nowadays. For maybe you, if you see the history of SBI 10 years back, there might be multiple occurrences of no, there is no there is various reasons or various situations where SBI system is not responding to their operations. SBI system is not available to the ATM systems, not to the bank itself. So that is something very, you can say rare situation, but it is one of the possible scenario that may raise to transaction failures, right? Last probable reason is the physical problem and catastrophic. So catastrophic, it is something called natural disaster. So any disaster which is beyond human reach or beyond human capability. So it can be like there must be some earthquake, some heavy rain, or those kind of situations. So those situations are also one of the reason of transaction failure. So these are the prominent reasons for a failure of a transaction in a transaction based system, right? So you should be having some brief idea about these possible reasons, that what is the reason, what is the criteria, or what is the situation which falls into these different categories. Now, whenever a failure is occurring in the database system, yeah, that's why we need a separate module in a DBMS or within a DBMS which takes care of the recovery of these transaction, which takes care of the rollback of the transaction, right? So in the case of failures, rollback or recovery is the only solution we have, right? So recovery and rollback both are sometimes considered as a similar or equivalent solution, right? So rollback is literally like, it is like reverting the changes. That's one thing. Recovery means whenever we perform some transaction, and whenever there is this changes on data item happened, and now you want to retrieve this partially updated value of the data item, then you need a proper algorithm to recover this partially changed state of data, and use this partially change of data to reinstate the transaction, to revert the transaction, right? So so rollback is a bigger term. So within the rollback strategy, within a rollback algorithm, within a rollback subsystem or system, you need a recovery recovery algorithm. So recovery is the smaller aspect. It is basically sub concept, which is a smaller level of computing of rollback, or maybe within rollback, right? So rollback involves each and everything which raise this recover, so reinstating of a transaction. So rollback is involving recovery, and there are various steps within rollback involves which are beyond recovery. So recovery is one of the step of rollback, you can see. Now, so with this, you can have this brief idea that, okay, whenever we are performing some transaction on the database system, on the database values, there might be some reasons for transaction failure. And out of these reasons, there are primarily 5 or 6 reasons which might be happening across the world for a particular database system. So these are the 5-6 primary reasons for transaction failures. And solution for all these kind of failures is the recovery or rollback of the transaction, right? So for that, we will be placing a separate module into a DBMS system. And in the modern days DBMS systems, we are having this recovery control or rollback or concurrency control module already plugged into these kind of DBMS, right? So in nowadays scenario, most of the DBMS system is having these one dedicated module for this purpose, right? So with this, now we are going to discuss altogether new phenomena, not altogether new sequence of concept, which is basically to understand that in a database system, we used to have this capability that multiple users will be accessing a particular data item, right? So let's assume that we are going to book ticket on a airline services. So naturally, if airline service is having 20 or 30 seats, there might be more than 30 users who is going to access that particular data item and try to book a ticket, something like that. So in the database or in any particular transaction processing system, it is a very obvious, it is a very normal or common situation that a particular data value is being accessed by multiple concurrent access, multiple users via concurrent access, right? And if more than two users are trying to, more than two transactions through their more than two users through their transactions are trying to access one single data value X, there might be some possibility of conflict because they are trying to access the same data item. They might have logged into the system at the same time also. They might have read or accessed the data, the value of their data at the same time. They might have this possibility of updating the same data value at the same time. So whenever more than one user are contending for accessing a data item, and each user in their transaction is having possibility of two operators, two operations, read and write, right? So we have this possibility of four arrangements, right? Due to which there might be some conflict, there might be some need of control mechanism. So whenever two users are contending or accessing the same data item, they might perform read and write, write and write, something like that. So one user is able to perform two operations, read and write. Second user is also able to perform read and write on the same data item. So there might be situation of conflict. Conflict means the two users with their two operations are contending or going for or accessing the same data value. So there might be the conflict of operation, conflict of first user operation with conflict of second user operation, right? That's just because these two users are having two operations, read and write. So we have possibility of four different operations for the conflict. So you can imagine. So that the best typical case of conflict is called write. So the first user is also trying to write something. First user is also want to modify the data item X, data value X, and along with it or concurrently, second user is also trying to modify the value. So it is write conflict. It is write conflict because both transactions, both users are trying to update or manipulate the data value of X, right? It might be happening on the same time. It might be happening just very close to each other, right? And whenever we see, okay, two transactions, two users are trying to retrieve or trying to update the value of data item X, which is the common between transactions, how it is important, how it is critical that failure of one transaction may lead to the incorrect value of X, right? So if two operations, two transactions are accessing the same data value X, right, maybe concurrently or maybe very close to concurrently, then in this situation, if a particular transaction one or particular transaction user one disrupted or failed due to some reasons, how this failure of one transaction on the data item X may affect to the value of X which is available in the transaction 2, because each and every transaction is happening in a very interleaved or overlapped manner. So whenever we have this scenario like more than one user is accessing this item X at the same time, and there might be some transaction that is failing due to some reasons. There are n number of reasons, 5 or 6 we have seen. So one out of these various transactions which are accessing a data item X at one point of time, there might be a reason of failure of some transaction, and how it is important to see that failure of one of the transaction on data item X might lead to some incorrect state of a particular data item, right? So that's what we say. This is the first typical scenario of conflict. This is the first case of concern for us, and we used to refer this scenario called write, right? So because all of the users which are currently accessing data item X are basically trying to modify, right? So whenever we say this scenario called write after write, so whenever two users are trying to write on a data item X, failure of one transaction may lead to this particular scenario called lost update, right? So you can see in the diagram or in the figure, we have two transactions, one from user T1 or user 1 and his transaction name as T1, and there is a second concurrent transaction which is called T2 of user U2. So we have two transactions from two different users, and for each transaction we have set of instructions, set of operations defined. You can see T1 and T2, right? So you can see here, so this is something shown as a time limit also. So because we are capturing the time value for each and every instruction, each and every operation. So you can see here, there is a data value, data item called X. So X is accessed by T1 in the very first moments. So maybe both transactions have started at the same time, but T1 has started reading item X prior to T2, right? So T1 has read, so in the very first moment T1 has read the item X, and he has modified X value with some N. Like it is like you are booking a ticket. So suppose X is some value, X is 30, and you're trying to book 5 or 6 tickets. So it's like 30 minus 2. So N is 2, something like that. And after a few moments, you can see transaction T2, who has already logged into the system. Now he's trying to update, he's trying to add some value into the transaction T2, right? And data item basically X, right? So you can see here, after reading the transaction, reading the value X in T1, after some step of after a few seconds, T2 has also performed read operation on X, and he has performed some changes on data item X, right? So after this, you can see after the completion of X equals to X plus M, there is a next moment instruction which is called write X. So now T2 is writing something. Actually, he's reflecting all the changes on data item X, some kind of thing. So after this, if you see, there is a transaction in T1 which is on read item Y. So Y is not the reason, parameter or value Y is not the reason for conflict, because it is not being accessed by T2. So after read item Y, you can see there is an instruction called write item X. So now T2 is trying to update, T2 is trying to save the value of X, right? So you can see, so whenever T2 is writing something on X, right? So this T2 transition is not able to see the possible change in the data item X because of T1, right? So this is something which is not good for our database state. So this reflects that whatever change we have made in transaction T1 is not taken, is lost, right? It is overwritten, it is not considered, right? So we have lost the updates made by T1 just because we are performing a write operation on T2 after the write operation of T1. So this is a typical case of write after write. So this is something is serious. So whenever we have these kind of interleaved transactions, and in these interleave means there is a one operation from T1 on the data item X, and in the very first or very next moment there is a transaction T2 which is trying to again update the same data item X in the very next moment. Then we have again next instruction, something like that. So we used to say them as the interleaved. We used to say them a concurrent. So concurrency is okay, but whenever we have this interleave arrangement of transactions, operations, there might be the possibility of errors or failures, a loss of something, right? So this is the very first scenario of it. Now, as a student of database system, you can easily find out, okay, how to deal with these situations, right? So we will be discussing it in the next lecture with the concept called serializability. You can arrange these transaction or operation in a serial fashion. Within the transaction, you can arrange these operations in a serial fashion, like you can move all the operations of one transaction in one place, and you can move out all the operation of T2 in one place, something like that. So interleaving should be removed. Interleaving of instructions operation must be avoided, right? So that concept is there. We will be discussing in the next lecture. So that is the first scenario. So write after write is the very first scenario, and we should refer that this is a scenario called lost update. We are losing the update done by the previous transaction, done by a transaction, just because these operations are interleaved, right? Now after this, write after write, there is a possibility which is called read after write, right? So now you can see here again we have two transactions. So we have now you can see in the second diagram, this diagram, each and every instruction within T1, within transaction T1 has been placed in one very simple block. So there are sequence of operations of T1 which are organized in one place, and after the completion of all the operation in T1, we are going to access this transition T2 and perform these operations. So this is something a kind of solution also. So here you can say there is no interleaving between operations of two transactions. All the operations, all the set of user perform actions are kept in one place within transaction T1, and all the operation of user U2 in transaction T2 is placed in one place, right? So, but this is not the final solution. It may also leads to the scenario called read after write, right? So you can see if transaction. So it is so in this arrangement, if you see because of some reason, if transaction T1 fails, so transaction T1 basically has simply read the data item X, perform this change called X equals to X minus N, then perform write. So basically all the changes which T1 has done has been partially saved by write item X. After that, if you go to T2, so it is simply reading X, then performing X equals to X plus N, and then write on X. So there might be some reason that, okay, so let's assume that T1 is failing because of some reasons. So all the changes on X must be going back to its original value, right? And if you are reading X, so this is a typical scenario of called, so whenever we are failing transaction T1 because of some reason, and T2 is basically have this old value of X. So whenever T1 is failing, it is losing the value of X, which has been written, which has been changed by X or transaction T1. So this is typically scenario when we can say it is a dirty read. So T2 transaction is accessing the incorrect value of X, which has been created by the transaction T1, right? So now if you can see here, all these values which has been modified by the transaction T1 with its correct fashion, with its obvious and correct way of execution, also might be reflected or maybe accessed incorrectly into this scenario called dirty read, right? So that is something second scenario. And if you go for the second last scenario, which is involving write, so it is called incorrect summary. So it is like so whenever we are performing two operations, like T1 is having some operation, transaction T1 is having some operation arranged, and T3 is having different operation. So now we have third user. For third user, we are having this another transaction called T3. If you see here within the T3, because T3 transaction is having few instructions arranged initially. So T3 begin with initializing a variable called sum equals to 0, and then this T3 is trying to read data item A, and he's trying to add this data item A into the sum of this variable. So it is kind of summation. So it is basically adding these values into the sum variable. So it is creating some summary, right? So if you see this summary keep going on for a while, for different steps, and eventually it is creating a summary of sum plus summary plus X, right? So it is adding all the variable values from A to X on some variable called summary. So if you see here in T3 have started doing this summation on the summation of all the variables from A to X, and in between, if you see, there is a change between change of value X due to the T1 transaction, right? Now here T1 is trying to update X equals to X minus N, right? So here whatever summary we will get in T3 after this sum equals to sum plus X, then before going to read item Y. So you can see here whatever summary it is having with the summation of variable sum plus A. So basically all the sum values with X also. So it is going to create an incorrect summary, because in between this transaction T3 there is a parallel transaction T1 which has modified the value of X, right? So so if T3 reads X after N is subtracted and read Y before N is added, a wrong summary in the result. So it is off because of changes on X due to N, right? So this is something called, we are referring them as an incorrect summary, and it is because we are modifying, we are reading a value after it has been modified, right? So this is the third possible case. Last possible case is called, so because you can have this read also, I mean, you can have this possibility that all the users, all the concurrent users are simply reading the value, simply reading value. They are not performing any, they're not performing any write operation, right? So it is called read after write. So read after write is basically you are having this many accesses on a data item for just for reading it, you're not modifying it. So that is also considered as a problem, and it is referred as a unrepeatable problems, unrepeatable read problems. So that is also a situation which we need to avoid as a database designer, right? So these are the four possible reasons of conflict. So whenever I say during the next upcoming lecture discussion, whenever I say, okay, there is a conflict, there is a conflict between two transactions on the data item X, it means at least one transaction is performing write operation, right? So I mean, there is a conflict because of read also, but whenever I say conflict means there is at least one transaction out of two, out of many. There is at least one transaction who is trying to update the data item, right? So it can be of write, it can be of write read, it can be of read write, right? So this last case, which is called read conflict, is not a problem. It can be managed easily also because it is not trying to update the data item. But whenever we say there is at least one transaction who is trying to update the data value, we can say this is a serious concern. We should be taking care of these possible scenario, right? So these are the four cases of conflict. These are the four scenarios of conflict, and we have discussed, we have covered these four scenario because whenever a failure occurs in a transaction, that may lead to these four possible scenarios, that will lead to these four possible case of conflict, four cases of lost update, lost summary, something like that, right? So we need to have a strong mechanism, we need to have a strong algorithm, we need to have a strong component. So in the DBMS system, they have come up with property or solution called ACID property. So they have penned down, or they have come up with these properties, four properties, which are defined as a ACID. So ACID properties are there. So ACID properties are basically defined or maybe given as a proposal of the solution for these failures, for these situations. And it is said that whenever a transaction is executed along with the other concurrent transaction in the database, the database management software, DBMS management software, should ensure these four property on each transaction. And that's the solution. So they are saying if a transaction system or if a database system is able to basically ensure these four property on each transaction, then there will be no problem of failure of transaction happen. There will be no loss of data when the transaction happen, right? So, and these properties are referred as a desirable property of a transaction. So any kind of transaction should possess these different four properties, right? So ACID, which stands to, A stands to atomicity, then C stands to concurrency, then I stands to isolation, then D stands to durability, right? So these four property basically engage to the four different important aspect of a transaction. Some of it we have discussed or partially pointed out in yesterday lecture also. So let's take one by one. So the very first property which is required to be in the transaction, which must be confirmed or unfirmed by DBMS system in a transaction, is called atomicity. So atomicity said one of the very important property of transaction, which we have pointed out in yesterday lecture also. Whenever we are performing a transaction, whenever there is a transaction in DBMS, it should perform in its boundaries. That's the first property we have taken yesterday also. So the very first property says, अगर आपके database system में कोई transaction execute हो रहा है, तो वो पूरा होना चाहिए. Means जब से आपने start किया और उसके बाद commit तक, और अगर बीच में इंटरप्ट हुआ, it should not perform at all. Either it should be performed in its entirety, means boundary to boundary, or if there is a failure, if there is external reason, external factor which is causing this aborts or truncated or terminated transaction, it should not perform at all. It should be backtracked. That is the property of atomicity, which is stating that any transaction which is performed or which is being performed in the database system, it should be performed in its boundaries, its entirety, and if not, it should not perform at all. That's the simple statement of atomicity. So there must be some DBMS component which is implementing this property, right? So in the database system, we have, in the DBMS system, it's not a database, in the DBMS system, there are different components arranged to take care of these properties, right? So atomicity, which is obvious and which is clear also. Now we are going to see concurrency. So concurrency is something which is basically you should have this concurrent access on the same data item. So that is something we have just discussed from the yesterday lecture to today's lecture also. So concurrency says, okay, you can have access on the same data item through multiple transactions. That's okay. But whenever we are performing some change, whenever we're performing some change on a data item, the data item should be in the consistent state, right? So if you are adding something on data item X and second transaction is trying to deduct something on X, so after accessing concurrently from these two transactions on the these two operation on X, your state of data value X should be in the consistent state. एक example हमने कल भी लिया था कि suppose we are transferring some amount from my account to my family member's account, then the deduction of some amount from my account should be, and this transfer of some amount into the family member's account should happen in a proper way. So basically, after this completing the transaction, the state of data at my account and state of data at my family member's account should be in the consistent state, right? जो deduction मेरे में हुआ उतना ही addition वहाँ होना चाहिए. It should be reflected in both places. So consistent state means this: whatever change we have done through the concurrent access on a data value, it should be consistent. It should be kept in a consistent way, right? That is something called concurrency. So you should not be having this scenario like कि मेरे अकाउंट से अमाउंट डिडक्ट हो गया लेकिन वहां पर ट्रांसफर नहीं हुआ, या कि मेरे से ट्रांसफर रिफ्लेक्शन जो है प्रॉपर नहीं हुआ और वहां पर एडिशन नहीं हुआ. So it should be not like that. So whenever we say consistent state, it means whatever change we have done on the data item, it should be reflected in all the places. Eventually, after the completion of all transaction, your database state of that variable should be on a proper valid state. The third property, which is very important, it is called isolation. And isolation says that whenever we are accessing a data item through different concurrent transactions, so suppose there is a data item X and there are various number of users who are trying to access the data item X, right? So it is very important to provide this impression to the user that he is the only user who is accessing this data item. So it is kind of isolation for each user, for each transaction. DBMS system should create this appearance that there is no user who is accessing this data value along with you. And that is what we are expecting also. So whenever we are going for ticket booking, whenever we are going for SBI systems, we do not have any clue about the other concurrent users on the same data item. Other concurrent users, other concurrent passengers who are trying to book the ticket on the same train, same berth, same category. So that is something is important, which is the responsibility of DBMS. So DBMS system will provide some kind of help to the transaction through which you will achieve, through which as a user you will feel that there is no other user who is accessing the data item, and that is something coming from this property called isolation. The third, the last property, which is again important, which says whenever whenever we perform some change on the database, whenever there is a change in the database, it should be maintained properly, right? So your database system, whatever change it is happening, so change means अगर कोई ऑपरेशन कर रहे हैं वो चेंज भी, अगर कोई फेलियर हुआ है वो चेंज भी, आपको उन सब चीजों को मेंटेन करना है, right? So if transaction is happening successfully, So all these changes happened in that transaction should be kept or stored in a systematic way, or in a proper way, you can say. And if a transaction is failing due to some reasons, all those information, all those detail, all those system logs also should be kept in one single space, right? You cannot lose any change, you can lose not lost any update on the transaction, right? So based on which you can only recover the transaction, right, if any transaction is failing. So basically these four property needs to be satisfied, and that's what we cannot have fifth property. These four property are self-sufficient, they are self I mean, it is complete set of property, which makes which ensures that transaction will be I mean, we are having sufficient information, we are having sufficient data records through which we can claim that a database transaction is happened properly. So these four properties are essential, and it is important. And basically we will be discussing these different algorithms, these different approaches or solutions through which we are achieving these four properties, right? So in the coming lecture we will be discussing this concept called serial availability and other algorithms, preferably called concurrency control. So in that we will be covering few algorithms, few solutions, right? And these properties will be I mean, discussed in detail to understand, to see how in the modern days we are getting different solution, this different transition control system, transition processing system, which are having this stable performance, right? So with this I am closing this today's lecture, and I'm having this